Well, where do I begin? Well, I guess a good place to start would be this kite that's hanging behind me. It's been in my life for over 30 years, and I remember the first day that I got it. I was at the beach, and I went into the kite shop, and I saw this kite, and I thought it was pretty cool. So I went out on the beach, and I never flown a kite before, at least not one like this, where you had to actually steer it and fly it. So I remember the first couple of days having a lot of hard crash landings, but eventually I got to the point where I could steer to the right, I could steer to the left, I could take it up high, I could take it out low, I could kind of hang it over the waves a little bit. It was kind of cool. But like a lot of things, life was continuing to move forward. And so I was finding myself out of high school, looking for employment. I had always been in kind of a shop environment, and so I had my heart set on being an auto mechanic. I was still living at home, going to work. But after several months, it didn't seem like it was quite the fit that I thought it was going to be. And then another transition came into my life where a theater company was at my parents' house. They had some vehicle problems, and so I began to inquire about this theater thing. And they said, sure, we'll teach you everything you need to know. And I figured, well, I'm living at home, I got nothing else going on, so I started touring with this theater company based out of Los Angeles. And I got to the point where I had two lines to memorize in this first thing, to where I was on stage doing full 20-minute dialogues in front of thousands of people. And I figured, okay, this is it. I love this. This is great. And so I thought I had my heart set on doing that for the rest of my life. Because I was traveling, I was doing things, I was going places, and it was pretty cool. Everything was new and exciting. And that came to a halt, a sudden halt, through an accident on tour. We were going through the mountains, we hit some ice, the vehicle spun out of control, and I couldn't tour anymore as a result of that accident. Within 2 weeks of that accident, my father was diagnosed with cancer. And the business that he had started back in 1965, he was always hoping that one of his sons would take the business. Well, I guess I drew the short straw and went to work for my dad for what I thought was going to be 3 weeks. Well, 3 weeks turned into 20 years. So during those 20 years of running my father's shop, I was learning, doing, and got to the point where I was in a single family home, and I customized it just the way I wanted it. And then I was looking at a house down in North Carolina, and that was something that was kind of new and adventurous. And when the house in Maryland didn't go to settlement, I couldn't buy the house in North Carolina, and I found myself living on my shop floor. And after pouring my life into something for 20 years, I thought I had reached a place where I was stable and life was secure. Well, I quickly learned that life wasn't as secure as I thought it was. And living on my shop floor, and things were starting to fall apart around me. I didn't know where to turn next with a job. I couldn't find work. And the family that I had had for close to 20 years went out to Bellingham, Washington for what I thought was going to be a short time. Well, one day I got this very difficult phone call that my family didn't want to be a family. And so I gathered up all my things in the shop in North Carolina, sold a lot of it, came out to Bellingham to try to put that back together. And one thing led to the next, and I found myself jobless, homeless, living out of my car, not knowing where to turn next. I was donating plasma for $20 a week. I was living out of my car, not knowing what was going to happen from one day to the next. And I remember a lot of those long, cold winter nights, being alone and questioning and cold and feeling alone and isolated. And it was like God was looking down saying, okay, now that I've got your attention, trust me. I know your past, I know your present, I know your future. Trust me. And I'm looking right back up going, okay, you've got me this far. I guess I can go one more round. Well, after a few odd jobs here and there, I was doing the job search online, and I came across this ad for a face painter was looking for a balloon artist. Well, what's a balloon artist? I had no idea. I'd always been good with creating things and being creative and performing. When I look at my job resume, I figure, well, with everything I've done to this point, I could probably handle twisting a few balloons. And got to the place where I was pretty comfortable with it, but it was not stable enough to what I would call a career, something that would maintain my existence on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis or anything long-term per se. Well, one thing led to the next, and there was a company down in Linwood looking for a driver. So I said, well, here's my opportunity. So I was traveling from Bellingham down to Linwood every day, and after 6 months, I found a place in Linwood. I was renting a room. Things are starting to come together. And not forgetting about this kite that I had had for 30 plus years. I pulled it out and I was flying it one day, and I began to question or wonder, I wonder if there's any kite flying in Washington State. Well, that opened up a whole nother can of worms, and so I went to Ocean Shores Kites because I figured that was the only kite store in the area. So I walked in, and here's all these new kites just hanging everywhere, and things have changed quite a bit in 30 years since I bought this kite. And so I bought my first couple of kites, which were true sport kites, kind of a performance kite. And within a couple of months of learning to fly those, I heard about this indoor event. Well, what's flying kites indoors? How does that work? And so, being the inquisitive, adventurous person, I went to this indoor kite festival, and that's where I met Team Evidence for the very first time. And it's not that I was really interested or involved, but I noticed that with Team Evidence, everything they flew to was somewhat familiar. It was contemporary Christian music. It was inspirational, and so I had a few conversations with Scott Davis, and within a couple of months, I was in Long Beach at another indoor kite festival, and I saw Team Evidence there once again, and was starting to form a relationship with Scott and different members of the team. And I remember having a conversation with Scott because he had been hoping and praying for someone in the North Seattle area to be a part of the ministry, and it was a ministry. I could see through their flying and through what they were doing and how they were conducting themselves. It was very much a ministry. I could see God working through their kite flying, through the music, through the way they interacted with people. And so I became a part of Team Evidence. And here I am a little over a year later at this event, flying for my very first time. And I guess to sum it all up, to look back over the last 30 plus years, it seemed when life hit me out of nowhere and I was barely holding on and I was tired of fighting, I just had to let things go. And it was then that God could truly work. And so through kite flying and through the ministry of Team Evidence, I've been able to connect with something where I have not just friends that I fly with, but they're very much a family. They're very much people that I can turn to. And I very much love the idea of being able to take something that I am passionate about and allowing God to work through something that I am passionate about. When you couple those two things together, it becomes unstoppable. It becomes fresh every day. I can't think of any time that I've ever picked up a kite in the last year where I haven't sensed that it's something bigger than I am, because I'm flying to music that inspires me. I find myself outdoor looking up and seeing the skyline that God has created. I see the world around me through a new set of eyes, through a new fresh set of eyes. And when I thought my world was falling apart, it was really just falling into place. And so I hope you enjoy this evening of ministry through Team Evidence that I am a part of, and I hope to get to speak with one of you or all of you at some point, because this is something that I'm passionate about, because it's giving me a sense of direction, a sense of purpose. But it's not just flying the kite, it's connecting with people. It's learning to see life through God being a part of it. I'm reminded every time I pick up a set of kite lines that it's God is the one that is holding the lines. God is the one that is steering my life. God is the one that brings it all together in the most mysterious, incredible ways I could ever possibly imagine. Thank you. God bless.